the radio. I was like, Stockton Elsa, what is this? Get up there, Larson. What's that? Yeah, might well. I don't even know. I think all the youth. But just remember, Robert, you gotta do offering.
This one right here, yeah. So we're going to sing first. Good morning. Good morning. It's so good to hear all of the excitement and the chatter. We are going to start off this morning with a song. So if you would like to stand, if you are able, that would be wonderful. We're going to sing Take My Life. It's number 389 in the hymnal worship book if you want to sing along or look at that. We're going to do verses 1, 2, and 5.
Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to Thee. Take my moments and my days, let them flow in ceaseless praise. Let them flow in ceaseless praise. Take my hands and let them move at the impulse of Thy love. Take my feet and let them be swift and beautiful for Thee. Swift and beautiful for Thee. Take my will and make it Thine. It shall be no longer mine. Take my heart, it is Thine own. It shall be Thy royal throne. It shall be Thy royal throne.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Well, welcome. I'm glad everyone is able to be here today. I have a few announcements. The first is the up-and-coming songs. Please share your songs that remind you most with the Lord. These could be any songs, and then make sure to please share them and fill them out in the card by the bulletin board. Next, we have the Kirkmont. That it's going to be August 8th through the 10th. Make sure it's on your calendars. The registration is open online, and the paper forms are also available. And then last is the ice cream social. It benefits a person named Hudson. He was born prematurely with many health complications. And it's July 6th, 4 to 7 p.m. If you have any questions, see Roberta Yorter with the questions. And then can Nikki come up?
The Bible School Committee would just like to thank everybody who came out on Friday and helped transform the church into the true north. We were done in about 3 hours with the majority of all of the decorating, which is huge. We were here till about bedtime last year, so we just really appreciate all the people. And not only were there a ton of people here to help us, but everybody was smiling and everybody was happy to be here, and it was just so good to see. But also, along the lines of decorations, as you move about the church today, just be mindful. There are still a few things that aren't in their correct places yet. just due to the sanctuary still being set up for church. So if you see things in random places, just kind of leave them alone. And also upstairs near the MYF room, there is a hallway that's blocked, and there's a hallway in the basement that has a curtain over it. So just be careful as you move about today. And then for our volunteers, everyone's shirts should be in their mailboxes. If you don't have one or it's not the right size, let us know and we'll fix that for you. If you're coming for dinner, it's at 5 o'clock. We'll have pizza tonight in the fellowship hall. And then even if you're not coming for dinner, if you're volunteering, I'd like to meet in the fellowship hall tonight at 5:40 just to pray and go over some final instructions. But if you have any questions before that about what you're doing or where you need to be, just see myself or one of the other committee members. Thank you.
And then can Alan also come up?
I'll do it from here. Some of you have been asking about the progress on selecting our next elder, and so wanted to give you an update on that. On behalf of Alex and the elder team, we are pleased that Twyla has accepted the call to be our next elder. We will be sorry to see Gretchen stepping down from there, but look for information on installation time for Twyla then in the next couple months.
And then call to worship time.
For call to worship, we'll be reading a call and response. I think it'll be up on the screen. I'll read the leader part, and the congregation can read the people part, and we'll all read the all part together. This is the day the Lord has made, a new day, a gift from God.
We are here to rejoice and be glad in it.
Come just as you are, tired or joyful, busy or still. God welcomes you here.
We come with open hearts, ready to meet with God.
Jesus, our gentle and loving Savior, call us to rest, to listen, and to worship.
We are here to remember God's goodness and to be reminded we are not alone.
So come close, this is holy space, and we are God's beloved people. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and worship together.
Good morning. Just before the offertory and kind of our offering time, I just thought sometimes we get so far into the service and we don't remind you of exactly what we're talking about today. You've obviously noticed there's a lot of youth up front. It is our youth sharing service about our time with MDS. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of that info, and then we'll kind of continue with offertory. So we did go, there was a group of 15 of us, 11 youth and 4 adults. We went to Perry, Florida at the end of June. Perry, Florida is about an hour southeast of Tallahassee, so kind of puts you in the panhandle part. And it was an area impacted by 2 hurricanes. So Hurricane Idalia in 2023. That was a Category 4 hurricane. And then also a year later, Hurricane Helene brought more damage to the area. So you are going to hear today some stories from the youth and from the adults about the different houses that we worked at, the different jobs. You'll hear the names of Miss Annie and Ella May and Miss Patty as we share about the work that we did. And then you're going to hear about other fun things also. You'll hear a thing about team effort. We actually have Mallory here with us. She was a team effort leader. You'll hear what that means a little bit later also. So the youth did pick the scripture and the songs this morning, and as you can see, they're leading the service. So we're thankful that you're here and just excited to share with you. So we will do the offering at this time. So ushers, would you like to come forward?
Please bow your heads as we pray for this offering. Dear Lord, thank you for all these gifts that were given today. Please help them to further your kingdom and your glory and to help those who need it. In your name, amen.
If you would please stand, we'll be singing some more songs here.
Every song must
children, there is Children's Church. So if you would like to head out at this point, you can.
Okay. Scripture is Matthew 5:14 through 16. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven.
I think we are now going to begin our sharing about the job sites. Just a quick overview. We had their home base at the church, and then there's 3 different sites we went to. So ours was the first one. It was about 5 minutes away. It was Miss Annie's house. So we arrived at the site Monday morning. It's like a small 1-floor house with a couple bedrooms, a bathroom, a dining room, living room, laundry room, and a small kitchen. When we got there Monday morning, we went into the kitchen and part of the ceiling had fallen in. So we had to clean up all the insulation that had fallen out, all the drywall that had fallen down, and eventually we had to replace that, put new insulation in, and re-hang the ceiling. So just to go over a list of some of the other things we did. We sanded drywall in the ceiling in the dining room that had already been on the previous week. We had to level, there was an overhang before the dining room, and we had to jack it up with a little jack thing and then put it up and make it even. And then we put some plywood and drywall to try and keep it there just to make it look a little bit better there. We also hung giant sheets of plywood on the ceiling because we noticed part of it started to dip down like it did in the kitchen, so put that up to make sure it wouldn't fall over there. We hung drywall on the walls in the kitchen, which took a little bit of time, but drywall was fun. Then we mudded the drywall in the kitchen, putting the tape down and all that stuff. And then one thing we did was we started to put the floor down in the kitchen. One thing I enjoyed was we had to use a staple gun as part of it, hanging lattice in the corners. So that was kind of fun. One takeaway I would say is MDS has built a great program to help a struggling community in any disaster, anywhere. It felt very well planned out, even though everything didn't go according to plan. And one thing I learned about God is that He is able to use us as His hands and His handiwork, and He's able to help us. He's able to use us to bless others in the struggling community.
So I'm going to be talking about the homeowner of House 1, and her name was Miss Annie. And she was actually only there for about 15 minutes throughout the whole week. She'd actually been in the hospital. She pulled a muscle in her back. And so, but we did get to see her on the last day and get to talk with her a little bit. She's actually about 90 years old. She has 10 kids, and we got to meet 4 of them. They would open the door every morning for us when we got there. We met Kevin, Randy, Treva, and then the youngest daughter was Lil Annie, so she had the same name. She talked about how much she loved to cook and how that was important to her. And Kevin made the joke that he only learned to cook because he didn't want to eat his mom's cooking anymore. Which, But yeah, that was really cool to talk with her. She's a very sweet lady, very kind. One of my takeaways, or the coolest part of the trip, was just getting to see the difference from the very beginning to when we left. When we got there, obviously the ceiling had fallen in, but we got the drywall up. It looked a lot cleaner, and she was very thankful for all the work that we had done, and very grateful. So.
Hello, I'm talking about our two crew leaders that we worked with, Leon and Lucinda. Leon, he was from Pennsylvania, and he had been doing MDS on and off for probably longer than I've been living. So he had done home remodeling as his job before that, and so he was there for about a month-long period. That's what he would typically do. And then Lucinda, she was from New York, and she was there on a year-long program. And so it was great work with Leon and Lucinda. They were very patient, and they worked well with us because we didn't really know what we were doing because none of us had done anything with drywall before. And so Lucinda did tell us that we were their most memorable group. So we'll take that as all good things, you know. And I'd like to give a shout out to the group that I was working with, which was Isla and Brady, and then Caleb Larson and Hirschberger were there for half of the week each. And they did a great job. Drywalling sucks, so it's not that fun to do. And they learned how to do drywall, and they were ready to work when there was work to be done. So that was good, and they kept a good attitude. And I'd like to thank you guys for allowing us to have the opportunity to go to Florida with everybody. So it was a great time, and thank you for your prayers, especially for the drive back because that was long. That's it.
Good morning. I'm going to give the overview for job number 2 and what we did at Ella May's house for the week. I was there the whole week. Our MDS crew leader was Bill, and our job site was like 20 or 25 minutes away from the church that we were staying at. Ella May's house was a house trailer, but it looked like it had been added on to maybe a couple of times at that point. And our work was, we worked in the living room. A ceiling had caved in one section, and then there was water damage over most of the ceiling. So, and then the same with the kitchen ceiling, we were redoing it, and the flooring in the kitchen. A previous group had completed like hanging the drywall in the kitchen. And so our group was more so like smoothing out the seams and doing all the sanding. In a main bedroom, we did the ceiling and the flooring in there as well. And then in a back bedroom, we did the drywall had already been hung, and so we were mudding the seams and then painting all of these spaces as well. We did lots of other little tasks, and my main job the whole week was painting. I painted everything, every ceiling, every wall, and did a lot of kills on it. And we did a lot of cleaning towards like the end of the week as well to like help just make her space better than what how it was when we arrived. So I just wanted to say thank you for the support and prayers for us during the trip. Something that I was reminded of during this week was that God doesn't use us all with our varying personalities in the same way on a trip like this, but he always finds a way to bring out each person's individual gifts, and that brings a lot of joy to see the gifts in others and myself, even like when we're tired and we're over the heat and just ready to go home. So just being able to witness those gifts was very sustaining, so thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about Miss Ella May. She was 82 years old. She's never had kids, but she did have nieces and nephews that stayed with her in like the back room, which was like the room that I was in most of the time. She was staying with her sister while we were there because her sister was her neighbor and they live on the same plot, so she was staying there. She's a very like interesting lady. So on our second day, we had a question that we had to ask her about her ceiling and what we were doing with it. So we went over there to talk to her and also to get to know her. And she told us like a lot of really interesting stories about her life and like the places she's traveled to and like the different jobs that she's had in her life. There was a point in our conversation though where she kept like talking about how she wasn't a good person and how she was rude and she wasn't very nice and how she just really hoped that like the good that she did in her life outweighed the bad that she did so that she would be worthy. And the thing is that same morning we did like a devotional like every day, and the person that was supposed to do it that day didn't, like he couldn't for whatever reason, and so somebody else was like, oh, I have something I could share. And he talked about how it doesn't matter what like our good and our bad does because God's good outweighs our bad. And so Bill, our group leader, he told her about that, and I just thought it was really cool. And yeah, and then I also have a little story about Miss LMA, about something she said to me. So me and Lara had another question to ask her on like the last day. And so we went over there and they were having like a little conversation and talking about like your kids, right? So yeah, and then she looks at me and she was like, do you have any kids? And I was like, nope, I'm 15. I don't actually have any kids. And she was like, oh, okay. And she was like very expressive about the fact that she didn't want to ever have kids. And so she was like, yeah, you're pretty glad about that, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, I guess. And then like 5 minutes later, she was talking to Lara, I don't remember what it was about, and then she looks at me and she was like, and you don't look like you're a day over 20. I was like, yeah, I'm 15. And she was like, you're 15? And then she called her sister out, who was in her bedroom. She was like, Kathy, come out here. And then Kathy came out, and she was like, she's 15. Guys, I'm 15, I'm not 20. I promise. That's all.
All right, so this was my first ever missions trip I've ever been on, and overall, I was expecting hard work, but I had a very great time, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity that I had. And one thing that I really enjoyed was going over and talking to LMA, because she had done a lot in her life, and the things that we learned about what she said were very cool, so.
So I worked on 2 houses, but I spent most of the time at LMA's house. And I wanted to talk about like a God moment that I had. And that was like the first time we went over and talked to her. She started talking to us about how grateful she was that we were here and that she didn't know what she would do without us, without MDS, because the cost of the repairs to her home were just too much. And you know, she had received like a couple grants, I think, but still it just wasn't enough. And that just, it made me realize like the impact that this was having on her, because like for me, for all of us, I think it was just like a week of a lot of work and a lot very high heats, but it was for her, it was her house becoming her home again. And
I was told to talk about how I saw God during the week, and truthfully, it wasn't very hard. The volunteers that work there, they sign up and they work long hours in the hot sun for no monetary gain, and it's just because they know that they're helping others. So I thought that was very admirable. And also, anyone that is willing to volunteer to drywall is someone I respect a lot. One of my favorite moments from the week came on the last day of work when we finished up her house, and just it was so evident about how grateful she was for all the work we had done. And she kept saying, she over and over kept saying, I don't know what I would have done without you guys. And I thought that was very powerful. She could finally live in her house again after being displaced for quite a while. And it reminded me that God was there for LMA just like he's there for us always, and I thought that was a very powerful message about the whole week, so yeah.
Our group was working on Miss Patty's house, and she lived in Steenhatchee, which is like a 45-minute drive from Perry. So every day we got to start with a 45-minute drive, but we didn't have to do as much work because we had to leave early. So, and some of the stuff we were doing. One room inside, I think it used to be like a living room. We were putting up drywall and mudding and sanding it. And Josh and Connor put up a door, and they had fun doing that. And we put in insulation as well. And outside, we tore down old siding and put up some new siding. Started putting it up. We didn't really finish, and we cleared a lot of like trash and debris from our house too, and put in a dumpster. My highlight from the week was on Friday. We had to quit a little early because of the rain, and we got to go out to eat at a little diner. That was a couple houses down, and it was good food and tasty.
So we got to work at Miss Patty's house. She had two kids named Liam and Carter. So Miss Patty and Liam both worked at a local hotel. She managed it. It was just a few minutes down the road. But we didn't see Miss Patty until the last couple of days. But they were really inviting, really welcoming. I know we definitely woke them up a few times with our drills, but it's okay. They offered us like warm towels and lemonade and everything when it was raining, when it was really hot. So that was cool. We appreciated that.
I really appreciated the crew that I had the week that we were in Florida. There was a lot of different tasks that we worked on. We had to frame in windows and put a door in, like they said, do a lot of drywalling, insulation, tearing off some old siding, putting on new siding, cleaning up things that were in our way from the beginning. A lot of these homes already have disrepair, and so when the flooding comes in, there are things that it's hard to draw the line. Where do you stop fixing things or putting things back the way that they should be? And so it feels like a balancing act, I think, to work with these people on this disaster relief and cleanup. Some people have FEMA money to use and things like that, but Miss Patty didn't have that. I don't know the whole backstory. I didn't get to talk to her about that. I think she did have some FEMA cleanup money initially. When we got there, the house was mitigated. So there was insulation, drywall, everything was torn out on the inside, and they had disinfected to keep mold from growing. So it was like a clean slate for us when we walked in. But everything that we were doing, she was paying for the materials. And we had been connected with her through the social worker in order to provide labor to get it completed and get it put back together. So the job managers also had a balancing act to do, to work with the homeowners to figure out what the homeowner could afford materials-wise and how far we could actually go. We kept running into problems. The house had been patched together, added onto 3 times, patched together. Walls were not even with one another. There was leaking that was occurring in other places that had nothing to do with the flooding or Hurricane Helene, which was the hurricane that specifically affected Miss Patty's house. But she was very appreciative. Her sons lived there with her. She worked, like they said, that she worked like 10-hour days most of the week, and so we only got to see her toward the end of the week. She had kind of cleaned up things at work and got people to pick up their shifts because she was managing the hotel. And then she was able to talk to us a little bit and interact with us some more. And it's always amazing to me when we go on these kinds of trips, any kind of work trip or mission trip. You pray for God to use you to bless other people, but it really is amazing that the main impact, I think, is that God works on your own heart and blesses you with the people and the work and the relationships that you build. Those are the things that are the most important to the people that are volunteering their time. Now, I'm not saying that the people that we worked with were not blessed and affected positively by our work as well, but I think for those of us that volunteer, it is proportionally a much larger blessing for us to do these things. And so I want to thank everybody for praying for us, for supporting us, especially for the drive home. That was very crazy. You can talk to us about that later sometime. Atlanta was a nut house when we drove through. But again, I just want to thank everybody for the prayers, and I hope that you can see a little bit of the projects that we worked on, and I would encourage you to sign up for a project if one comes around soon, and go serve with MDS or some other project in order to let God work on your heart and bless you the way that He blessed all of us during this time.
Okay, so that was all for our group. I'm talking about what we did in the evenings, because we had, even though we did work 6 to 8 hour days, we still had quite a bit of time left afterwards. And we tried to find different activities to do around, sometimes where we were staying and other times just around town. So one of the first things we did, the first night, the guys just played basketball and hung out, didn't do too much. And Connor brought in a Wii that he set up, he and Brady. So they, just about everybody got on there. So Connor just had a lot of fun showboating with his skills on the Wii. So, but so other than that, we ended up going to get ice cream one day at a local place. Somehow it was hotter inside than it was outside in Florida, so everything melted right away. And the main thing that we did was the beach, probably about 20-30 minutes away from the church that we were staying at. And when we got there, they did warn us that it wasn't a normal beach, but when we got there, it turned out that the water was at most a foot deep the whole way. So, then when we got out to the beach, we saw that there were about as many crabs as there were grains of sand. So when you could hear them skittering away when you walked, they would just part. So lots of people got pinched. And yeah. And we caught a lot of those. And when we got into the water, there were even more crabs. So we found hermit crabs and horseshoe crabs, some fish and bigger crabs. So, and we were I think all of us tried to round up some of the bigger ones to catch. And the first time we accidentally scared it into Josh, who walked in just at the wrong time, did absolutely nothing, and then got a couple of his toes pinched. And then we kept running into these things when we were wandering around the beach. And eventually we found one that was probably about 8 inches across. And Josh and Josiah pinned it down, and I picked it up. And it went limp, but when I handed it to Josh, he got his finger about a ½ inch too far forward, and it latched on. And it took 2 of us to get it off, left some pretty big marks in there. So, and that one, before we even caught it, it tried to jump out of the water to get us. So there were some jumping crabs. But see, I don't think he's going to forget that one anytime soon. But yeah, so the beach was a good time. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun after our work days, and I think everybody enjoyed that one specifically except Josh. So
It was still fun.
yeah. Yeah, my takeaway from the week, the whole thing, is just that serving the Lord and all the people is very worthwhile, and that my time was well used helping all these people in need, because they wouldn't have had anyone to be there for them if we didn't go.
All right. Well, last, the group team effort, I'm going to be talking about them. Basically, they were a group we met when we arrived at the church we were staying at. We saw 2 young camp leaders at the door jumping up and down, really energetic. So that was a nice sight to see when we were super tired. But we were a little confused at first. We went with it. We got out and talked with them, and we realized we weren't working with them. But they later invited us to go to chapel. So our group went on the first day, and it was a great experience. We walked into the service. Sam, who was the other leader, directed the service and started off with playing Simon Says. He asked everyone to pick one person in their group to participate, and I was picked to play. But after the singing and lesson, we headed outside and we met with Mallory and Sam. They were talking to us about their experiences, and then they later invited us to go to chapel all the days. Unfortunately, we were only able to go on Thursday because we were busy the rest of the days. But I had a great idea that we should sing for them. So I shouted out we could sing on the last day. Everyone looked at me weird. We were a little skeptical about singing because you're in front of random people, but it was a good experience. So Mallory thought it was a good idea and asked if we had a song, so of course I said yes, even though I didn't have a song. But we decided to choose Behold Our God because of the story Mallory was telling at chapel that day. When Thursday rolled around, we found someone to help us play the piano for the song, and Connor also had a huge role in leading the singing for us. We performed the song, and it went super well, but it was awesome just to be able to meet and talk with another group. It was a great connection that we built for them. And the McKenna's part, she said, when we got to the church, I was already a little nervous because I had no idea what to expect. This was my first missions trip, and I didn't know if we were going to be at a youth camp or something with counselors. So I was pretty confused when we were greeted by 2 leaders that were really energetic, while on the other hand, we were super tired from the long drive. I think that it was awesome that we were able to meet them and connect with them. We were able to spend time with them as well, and we only didn't make small talk. It was also really cool to see the group smash together.
As the group comes up for the response song, as you can see, there are lots of stories. You're hearing our giggles and our laughter as we're kind of remembering, and it is hard to convey a whole week in a matter of 30 minutes. So keep asking questions, pull any of the youth aside, and just ask them something else that they remembered, or if you have a follow-up question to something that they shared. It is, like Josh said, such a blessing to go, especially as a leader, and get to see all of the gifts of the youth that we have. You've witnessed some of them, but think about being in high school where you were, and just the fact that we have the willingness to jump in and do this work that they've never done, connecting with homeowners, like talking to a stranger that you've never met, right, and asking them questions about their life is just such a good skill to have. And then, like Caleb mentioned, right, being willing to jump in and be involved in a worship service was a cool thing as well. So keep asking those follow-up questions because there are more stories, and find pictures of the crabs because they're funny. So. If you would, please stand.
Who has held the oceans in his hands? Who has numbered every grain of sand? Kings and nations tremble at his voice. All creation
All right, well, I hope everyone has enjoyed the sharing time from our mission trip to Florida. I hope you've all been blessed by it, just as we were blessed on the trip. We're going to close this portion of the service with a benediction, so if you bow your heads with me, please. As we go from this place, may we carry the spirit of service with us, responding in faith to God's call and rebuilding in love wherever there is need. Go in peace to serve with joy and walk in the way of Christ. Amen.